I think I'm going to start with the most important question. Ryan has given you some really great roles the last few years. What the hell do you buy him at like the holiday season?
Well, Ryan is a man that I find hard to buy a gift for. So, because Ryan's really good about, he's one of those people that takes care of himself. But I am not shy with writing and talking to Ryan about the difference he's made in my both career and life. It's not overly common for me to feel a spontaneous need to reach out to somebody mid-project, but specifically in the case when we were working on Hollywood, it was just some point midway through where I wrote Ryan and was like, I just have to take a pause to thank you. This is really already turned into an experience for me that I think is career and life changing. And if not either way, it's profound for me. I don't know. It's hard to know what to say because so much of that is about Ryan, and Ryan chooses to create these projects that offer those kinds of opportunities. And only thing I say is he's kind of like an angel to me.
I'll leave it there. I've been talking to a number of people in the last few weeks, months, and I've been asking everyone a few of the same questions, and they're very softball, I promise. What TV series would you love to guest star on?
Well, right now I'd say Succession. I think the writing is brilliant, and the acting, the actors they have, they'd be so wonderful to work with.
Okay. What movie do you think you've seen the most?
Tootsie.
Okay. Have you watched any TV series all the way through more than once?
No.
Okay. I cannot imagine what it would have been like to see Boys in the Band off Broadway in 1968. I can't imagine it. Have you ever envisioned or thought about being in one of those audiences back then? Has it ever gone, you know what I mean?
Yes, I do. To me, it's one of those experiences like people would make up that they were there just so they could be able to say that they were, because it was such a hot ticket. And you can see photos and read plenty of historical essays about it, about lines around the block and the limos pulling up with the celebrities. It was an event. And, what's funny about things like that, to me at least, they always seem preordained in retrospect. And yet, very well it's the kind of thing that no one saw coming, and that's what's so exciting about it, is that you almost feel like you stumble upon this major moment in history or the history of theater or whatever. And I'm trying to think if I've been a part of anything like that, like having been in the audience for something like that. And I can't place it if I have.
Being a part of that play in 68 could be considered a career killer. People were very nervous about signing on. And now you have your movie coming out, same material, 50 years later, 100 and something countries all around the world. And I just think about how much has changed in those 50 years.
It's unbelievable. And honestly, this wasn't the reason I think anyone signed up to do it, but because I think you had to be excited about the role and the story and the people you were working with. But it became what we've done. One of the benefits about it that I kind of didn't see coming was this feels like our doing this, and like you say, in the way we're doing it, so out and proud, and like you say, being accepted in so many different countries like that. It feels like a real homage to those original guys who, in all seriousness, like you say, so many of them had so much trouble finding work, even the straight ones who, because they were associated with it. Half of the cast died of AIDS, and they were the poster boys for the hard times that, in this case, gay people were going through to get us to where we are now. And it's just very moving to me and I feel more personally intelligent about my own personal history, having to go through this and recollect about it and think about them. It's all too easy sometimes to take progress for granted, and 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 that's the gift of it. You at a certain level you're allowed to, but I think that not only are you a more well-rounded human being when you are aware of what came before you and the struggle that had to happen to get to where we are, but you have information that helps you guard against slipping back. I don't believe that all progress is a given once it's there. I think that we've seen instances in which progress is taken away or attempted to be taken away, and there are lessons to be learned from these people that came before us.
Completely. I think it's a constant battle at all times, whether it be talking about democracy, individual freedoms, whatever it may be. It's too easy to slip backwards.
Yeah.
When you think back on the production, was there one scene that was always a tricky thing for you? You know what I mean? Was there one part of it, or was it, if you could just sort of share that?
Yeah, it was sort of different on stage and in the movie. In the movie, it didn't quite feel as much like this, but on stage, once the character that I played, Michael, once he took his first drink and Zach's character was there and he began to switch, it was always, I don't know if tricky is the right word, but it was always interesting to feel the audience as they went and recalibrated along with us, because you knew that there was a certain, I mean, a lot of people knew the play, but there was, even then though, there was a certain element of like, what's happening? And that was exciting, but it never landed exactly the same with them, which was a joy, but it felt a little like ice skating on a very thin blade. Like you're like, and in a way, that's exactly what's happening. This character is barely getting by, and he's about to hit his breaking point, even though he doesn't know it yet. So that was always tricky, but in some ways was the main reason to take the part, was to go through a moment like that and put yourself in that kind of free fall position for a moment and see where it landed.
I thought Joe did a great job with the staging of the film and especially the blocking. Can you talk about how you guys worked that out in pre-production and production?
Yeah, well, pre-production, we were lucky enough to have a week of rehearsal on the set for exactly that reason, so that we could really feel it out and see what was going on. And connected to that, during production, we shot in order, which is so rare in film, but we did, and it was related to the same reason. Once we had figured out the staging, you start leaving a breadcrumb trail of glasses and bottles and cigarette butts and the telephone, and the idea of having to reconstruct, moments earlier, later on, it was just going to be a nightmare. And so, but perhaps the biggest thing was that because we had all, not just the cast, but us with Joe, had already spent so much time with the material and the characters coming into this, it wasn't rehearsal on a set like it would normally be for a movie. There was so much first day jitters and what have you that were out of the way, things that didn't have to be talked about or figured out. And that made a big difference. It really did.
I'm almost out of time, and I want to ask you two questions, which I'm sure you won't answer, but I'm going to try anyway. What do you think Michael inscribed on the silver framed Herald?
Well, I've had my own ideas, of course, which you're right, I'm not going to tell. But somebody told me that Mart told them what was on it. And I don't even remember what it was because I don't believe them. I don't know why. I just found that too hard to believe. But Mart never told me what it was. So I guess that goes back to him being so careful with actors and not wanting to get in their head or get in their way.
What do you think Alan wanted to tell Michael?
I firmly believe is a full mystery. And Michael says, he's like, I don't know, maybe it was about Fran, maybe it was about something else. And, you know, the more I've thought about that, I think in some ways, Alan is a character for all the things he may or may not mean. One of the things is that he exemplifies that old saying of everybody's going through something. And whether he's struggling with his sexuality or whether he was just leaving his wife or whether it's something else, he is clearly hurting. And it leads him to this gathering where he is then lashes out and is hurtful to other people. And his old friend lashes out and is hurtful back to him. And I think it's just that thing of like, you never know for sure what's going on with anybody. And to be empathetic and try to be understanding for who they are because of that.
On that note, I have to go. I'm just going to say, I really mean it. You did a fantastic job with the material. Thank you so much for giving me your time.
Thank you very much.